And we're back after a brief break. You just saw Commissioner Joey Gonzalez defending his vote for the closure of Memorial Hospital, the proposed closure, and why he did it. And I think just to recap, his points were he did not want the backs of the taxpayers to have to bear the brunt of that, and that Spawn doesn't necessarily have to, with a gun to its head, provide indigent care. It's a tough issue out there, either side, so we thank him for coming on and facing the crossfire. Now we have a special guest out on here that's going to tell us about the whole county. Let's zoom back. He's going to tell us about what he's doing for the county and what's happening, the exciting things that are going on, and how we're growing almost to 500,000 people now in this area. And that's none other than Judge Loyd Neal. Welcome,
Joe. Good morning.
Yes,
good
thank
to see
you for coming on.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
I was thinking about it, and I know that you had told me what everybody's talking about, excited about, is looking beyond 2014.
That's right. When I did the state of county address, you'll remember I talked about this being a regional economy. And our region is about 11 counties. And while Corpus Christi and Nueces County is the largest city and the largest county in the region, not only do we have regional responsibilities, but for us to grow, the region must grow. And I emphasize that in my State of the County address. We're about 600,000 people in this region, but so much of it is centered in what we do here in Corpus Christi and Nueces County. And my whole premise in the State of the County this year, Joe, was the things are good. We're very, very fortunate. $20 billion worth of proposed industrial construction, a lot of new people coming in to work on all these construction sites. But the question that me and the others on the Commissioner's Court, and as for that matter, all of government in South Texas must answer, is can we sustain this growth? What are we doing looking outside 2014, looking in the next 2 or 3, 5, 10 years in South Texas to sustain this wonderful growth we have? And I outlined a number of points there that I thought were very important to this region to make it sustainable. And so if you'd like to, we'll talk about those this morning.
Well, and before we jump into that, special congratulations. Law enforcement, I heard, endorsed you recently.
I was very fortunate. Night before last, I got the endorsement of the POA, as well as our Sheriff's Association, which was very important to me. The people you work with the closest, if they have trust in you, if they believe you're going to be fair. And I told them that in the negotiations, which start next year, we'll start negotiating. We're entering the 4th year of their contract. And I told them that the only thing I would promise anybody is that we'll be fair and we'll bargain in good faith.
I'm Loyd Neal. I'm the Nueces County Judge, and I'm finishing my 2nd term. And I appreciate your support in the past, and I'm looking forward to getting it in the future. I was mayor of Corpus Christi 8 years back in 1997, 2005. During that time, by the way, the police officers know this, but that's when we passed the Crime Control Convention District and added the 50 police officers to the force. I've been county judge now during a period of time when we've really turned government around. We have not raised your tax rate. We've lowered your tax rate. We've not increased the bonded indebtedness since I've been county judge. We have not increased the cost of our health care to our employees since I've been county judge. We've absorbed that. And we've done a lot of other things. There are things that I think counties need to do in times of prosperity. One is reduce the debt load, which we've done. We've reduced the debt load about $40 million, and that's good for you. We have not incurred any new debt. We've invested in technology. We've invested in our people. Today, we approved the budget for the county moving forward. It has a 3% raise for our employees, plus a step increase, plus some increases for our Amen corner back over there, which works for county judge, works for the sheriff. These are things that we've done together as Commissioner's Court, and I think we've got a good budget. We have a good court, and I'm very pleased to be your county judge and look forward to another 4 years. Thank you.
And we understand that law enforcement has a responsibility and has more of an exposure than some of the other people, and we will take that into consideration. And I think that's all they wanted to hear, quite frankly, is we recognize they do an important job. Let me tell you, being a correctional officer in what I call Jim Kalin's bed and breakfast over there, where there's about 1,000 beds, and being a correctional officer in a pod that holds up to 50 people by yourself is a tough job. And many of these are young guys and ladies, but they're young guys, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to bargain in good faith, and I appreciate their seeing that as a commitment, and we'll do that.
Well, and I want to personally thank the law enforcement officials out there. I really mean that. I live in a neighborhood where a lot of people are aging. A lot of people are scared, if they hear noises and stuff out there, and they're Johnny on the spot. Every time I call, they're there.
Yeah, the first responders in this community do a great job. And when I was mayor for 8 years, you may remember this, the council and I promoted and we got passed the Crime Control and Prevention District. And that added 50 new officers, additional officers to the force. And that's still the level where we were back when we passed that. But I've always been a great friend, and I understand their exposure, and I certainly want them to be treated fairly, along with all of our fine employees in the Sheriff's Department.
Well, let's start out then. I know that a lot of people couldn't be there at the State of the County, but you're going to give us a kind of run through on that. A lot of people in the community, know that you're the county judge, but they don't know the typical day that you go through and the kinds of things you encounter. So I think by looking at the points that you're going through, they can kind of see the day-to-day operations of the county and what you take on.
Well, what I suggested to the people that stay in the county was there are about 5 things that, in my opinion, we must do in our region to sustain this wonderful growth we have. 1, it is a responsibility of government to keep the tax rate as low as they possibly can. And over the last 8 years, Nueces County has done that. In fact, we just did our budget, finished our budget this last Wednesday in the Commissioner's Court. Unanimous vote on the budget and the tax rate. And effective October 1st, we're lowering the tax rate for Nueces County citizens a penny. And that may not seem like a lot of money, Joe, but a penny on our current valuations is over $2 million, and we're lowering the tax rate on the hospital district a penny, and that's another $2 million that you don't have to pay. You don't see that, you just don't pay it. But I believe, and our court believes, that we must continue to keep those tax rates low. And people will say, yeah, you lowered the tax rates, but our taxes went up. Yes, if your valuations went up, your taxes went up. But over a long period of time, the lowering of the tax rate over a period of years reflects millions of dollars in savings. In fact, our combined property tax rate going forward, October the 1st, for the county and the Nueces County Hospital District combined, is less than it's been in almost 20 years. And that's very favorable for the taxpayers. So I think government has a responsibility. 1, keep the tax rate as low as they can. Don't raise it all the time. More importantly, this year, Nueces County is not going to have any more new bonded indebtedness. We have not added any bonded indebtedness to the citizens of this county since I've been county judge, going on 8 years. What does that mean? That means by paying off debt principal and refinancing some existing debt, we're able to transfer that money that would normally be spent to pay off principal and interest on debt. We can put that in the general fund, and we can do things like having more money to negotiate with our sheriff's employees, having more money to give raises, and we did. We're anticipating a 3% raise this year for our employees. So all of those things are important, but it all centers, in my opinion, around the tax rate and keeping it low. The second thing I said was that we must have adequate housing. And I think we're meeting that challenge here in Corpus Christi and in Nueces County. A lot of apartments being built, a lot of new homes being built. Yesterday, I received the endorsement of the Corpus Christi Builders Association.
Congratulations.
And that's good. I have the realtors endorsement, police, Nueces County Sheriff's Department, and now the builders. And why that? Because they recognize that there needs to be a climate in Nueces County to encourage people to invest in homes and apartments to handle all the potential growth that we have. So we must have adequate housing, and I think we're meeting that challenge. The 2 big challenges ahead of all of us in this region are water and a trained, educated, drug-free workforce. Water is critical, and I applaud the city. They've taken some steps through Mary Roads Pipeline 2, and affluent sales and other things to try to increase the available water that's available for industry and the citizens. But desalination has to be moved to the top. We cannot, over a long period of time, sustain the water needs of this community in South Texas depending upon it raining. And if it doesn't rain and we're in an extended drought position, if it doesn't rain, we don't have reservoirs full, the Colorado River isn't flowing, then we have to have a desal plan. And I think the city has one, but it's a regional challenge. It's a challenge for San Patricio County and all the other counties in the region that depend upon Corpus Christi to supply water. So
scary times.
It is, and we must deal with that up front. We've got to say, okay, we're doing all these things, which, as I say, I applaud, but we can't just put our head in the sand and say we have enough water for the next 30 years. If it rains, maybe we do, but let's make a serious combined regional effort to deal with desalination, either through the port, through the Nueces River Authority, through the City of Corpus Christi, through private sources. All of this must come together because we have to be able now to tell the state and the legislature, and you know Chairman Hunter has a statewide commission investigating desalination right now, and in the legislative session starting in January, 90 days from now, we're going to have, in my opinion, we're going to have a plan to take to the legislature that says we want desalination in Nueces County. So water is critical. The last thing I wanted to talk about, and I talked about in the state of the county, was that we have to have a trained, educated, drug-free workforce. And we're working on that. One of the keys to that is HB 5, the House bill that was passed to encourage high schools to broaden their curricula. Everybody's not going to college, we know that, but there should be paths for kids in high school to go either through the college path or the work path. And there are a number of critical paths that the high schools must develop. And my suggestion was, rather than every high school in the region doing their own thing, we know they have to do it. They have to be in compliance. Right now, they have to be starting in compliance with HB 5.
Yes.
Use WorkSource. WorkSource is a regional asset. The board is already set up through the Compass program to employ people and to tell them what jobs are available. I don't know whether they're doing that or not, but that was one of the emphasis points I had, and those are the things that I emphasize to sustain our growth in Nueces County and the region over the next 3, 5, 10 years.
Well, and you brought up that last point, the workforce. For the young people out there, not everybody is cut out, and I think we need to go back to that and just face realities. Not everybody's cut out to go to Harvard, Princeton, UT, A&M.
A&M.
Now, of
Thank
course, we got to do the plug in there. I see that A&M ring. The other thing is that's not condescending. I know people that are welders, hardworking plumbers, hardworking people that build this community. And so to those young people, what path is there? What critical pathway is there for them to make a $50,000 plus living?
Joe, just think about this. We have the largest industrial plant operation in South Texas, south of San Antonio. It's called the Corpus Christi Army Depot. And there are 5,000 great jobs out there. Most of those jobs, many are filled by veterans, and that's very good. But most of those great jobs do not depend upon having a college education. What they depend upon is having a skill to do the wiring, a skill to repair blades, a skill to repair engines. And those are skills that can be taught and are being taught through cooperative programs at Flower Bluff High School, Miller High School, Moody High School, Del Mar College, the Crafts Training Center. Those are skills that are being taught so these young people can go in, and those are really good jobs.
And they are.
And they have great benefits.
Well, I met a Marine last night that came back from Iraq. His job was to find mines.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of mines over there, and thank everybody who served. But he told me, I don't know where I'd be without the job. When I came back and working on helicopters, they trained me.
Yeah.
And earning $20 plus an hour to feed his family
Yeah.
with a high school education and a Marine Corps 4 years. And I said, first of all, thank you for serving. all veterans, but also I don't know where we'd be without those 5,000 jobs. Just like Spawn, I put them under the microscope. I hit them, but at the end of the day, we got to work together, and I thank them for providing 5,000 jobs too. And HEB.
Those are big employers.
Big employers.
Big employers. Okay, what you just said is why we need to emphasize, in my opinion, why we need to emphasize HB5 in these high schools. We need to get these young people thinking about those who want to stay in South Texas, want to stay in this region, and they look back and they sit back and say, I don't have an opportunity. Sure you do.
There
are a lot of opportunities. You got to train yourself, you got to educate yourself, and you have to stay drug-free. If you'll do those three things, we can put you on the path to qualifying some for great jobs, whether there's Krista Spahn, there are a lot of service jobs in Krista Spahn. You don't have to be a doctor or a registered nurse. They have a lot of job opportunities. The Army Depot, HEB, the school, all of those people have great employment opportunities, but you have to qualify for them. You have to keep yourself in a position where you can fill that job and maintain it. Then you can have what you and I look at as a great quality of life. Buy a nice home, do the right things, educate our children, go out to eat, and all those things that people say, well, I can't do that. Why? Well, I can't get a job. I'm flipping hamburgers. Wrong. If you'll train yourself and stay drug-free and get on the right path, there are a lot of things we can do to help young people.
Well, we're going to take a brief break. When we come back, you're watching Judge Loyd Neal, and you've heard about the 5 big points and things that he brought out, kind of updating you what's going on with the county. When we come back, we're going to talk about what I love the most, politics. And we're going to talk about his campaign, what he's been doing out there, and why he's asking for your vote one more time when we come back. Hi, this is attorney and board-certified nurse practitioner Joe Flores on behalf of Vasquez Flores Home Health. Nursing homes have their place, but having care in your own home is very important. Call today for more information. Backed by over 20 years of experience, registered nurse Priscilla Vasquez can answer your questions about home care. Call 881-9922. That's 881-9922 today.
Have you or a loved one suffered a stroke, heart attack, unexplained low blood pressure, or death during dialysis? The FDA has issued warnings and recalled the product Granuflo and Naturalite used in dialysis. At least one national company failed to warn the public that over 900 people had suffered cardiac arrest or death. A condition called metabolic alkalosis developed, which may have caused the harm. Call the law offices of Joe Flores today. With a combined 25 years of experience in the medical field and as a trial lawyer, Joe Flores can help. Call now. Have you been arrested or are potentially facing criminal charges? You need a trial attorney who is well-versed in the courtroom. Joe Flores has handled hundreds of criminal cases and many of them to trial. Joe Flores can provide you with competent representation to protect your constitutional rights in state and federal court. Joe Flores can help if you have been arrested or facing criminal charges. The law offices of Joe Flores. Equal justice for all.
And we're back after a brief break. You're watching South Texas Crossfire with your host, Joe Flores, and we want to thank Carlos Lopez and his family, Lopez Broadcasting, for giving Hispanics throughout South Texas a voice, and we honor his daddy who passed away in 2011. We never forget Humberto Lozano Lopez, who made it all happen. We're back, and we're going to talk a little bit of politics with County Judge Loyd Neal, Texas A&M graduate. I had to throw that in. And also, thank you for serving, Colonel.
Thank you.
And for everything you've done. Welcome back. Let's talk politics, but in the way that I want to talk about it first is, with your permission, let's talk about Todd Hunter first.
Sure.
And why his job, and Abel Herrero, and of course J.M. Lozano, everybody there. Yeah. But let's talk Todd Hunter first. You mentioned him about the desal plant.
Right.
Okay, why is his position so critical in Austin, and why do you stay in constant contact with him?
Well, Todd and I have been friends since he came to town. He was a young lawyer in a major law firm here, Clayburgh, Mobley, Lockett & Wild. You may remember that law firm. Joe, if you don't, it was one of the premier law firms.
Magic.
And Todd went to work there. I was in the insurance business with a long-time firm here, and we were in this building. In fact, Joe, this is where my office was, on floor number 5. You're in the space that we occupied. But I got to know Todd, and as he rose in the political ranks, Todd is now Calendar's chairman in the House. Calendar's chairman may be the second most important job in the House of Representatives. The Speaker, of course, controls everything, but every piece of potential legislation or real legislation in the House of Representatives in Texas goes through the Calendar's Committee, and the chair is a very strong person. And having Todd Hunter entering his third session, I believe, as Calendar's chair, and I'm sure he will be if Joe Strauss is the Speaker, is really important in South Texas. My personal relationship with Todd, excuse me, and his family and my family, our son's an attorney, and he did an internship or clerkship at that firm back when Todd was there, so we go back a long way in our families. Todd is a very good legislator, and he has a strong connection, as you know, to South Texas, so that's important. JM represents an area on the other side of the port, very important to the region. And of course, Abel is growing in stature. Abel and I get along very well, and we communicate well. His chief of staff and the people who work for him are closely related to people who work for the county. I've supported Abel in a lot of his legislation, but that's important because when I started this discussion today, I talked about the strength of the region. Mm-hmm. You can't have a strong region if you don't have a strong legislative delegation representing that region who gets along. And then who's going to leave out Chewy? Nobody. Senator Chewy Hinojosa is a great friend to this region. He's a great friend of mine and everyone else. He believes that this is an important part of his district, his senatorial district, and he's done really great things here. And he and our state representatives work together very well. So that's what's critical. And having a relationship with the county judge, and I will tell you this is political, but with a Republican-dominated House and a Republican-dominated Senate, and whatever the Republicans do or Democrats do with the governor and the other positions, having an elected official who can and has an open door here in Austin and in Washington is very important. I just got back with a group from Washington, D.C. last week. We went up there to the Pentagon and we went to the House and we talked about military matters, the future of the depot, Naval Air Station, Naval Air Training, what happens if you build windmills. We talked about all those things, and we met with the purported to be incoming chair of House Armed Services, Mac Thornberry, who's from Texas, who's married to a girl from Corpus Christi. So those are ties that it takes years to develop. I've been working issues on this area since 1976.
Well, tell him thank you for marrying a woman from Corpus, so we can keep. I'm sure you thanked him on our behalf.
I did. Well, he's a good man, but having a friend there doesn't hurt.
Well, let me say this. You mentioned the Republican-dominated, and it's a reality. Republicans dominate in Texas now. It's the last 20 years. But it sounds like you've been working with both Democrats and Republicans very well.
I have.
Okay, now that is in itself, from my political tea leaves I look at, it's an unusual situation in many counties where you have a conservative county judge, but that reaches out to all people to bring them together to reach a consensus. Yeah, right. I find in Texas sometimes it's our way or the highway, and if you're Democrat, you really don't have a voice. Tell us a little bit about how you reach consensus here, because we're about half and half, Democrat, Republican.
Well, we are. It's like I tell people all the time, if you know how county government works, you'll say it can't work because there's no boss in county government. And there isn't. I only employ 4 people out of almost 1,200, the 2 who work for me in my office and my emergency management people.
Awesome staff, by the way.
Yeah, and they are. They do a great job, and I'm blessed to have them. The other 37 elected and appointed officials, including all the judges and everybody else in Nueces County, we govern through the budget. And so the budget is the coordinating thing. It's the catalyst for county government. And I approve every expenditure. I look at every expenditure. I okay every check that goes through the county. The county court has given me that authority. We ratified that at a future meeting. But my relationship with the judges and the other elected officials, I think if you'll ask them, is good because I respect them. I respect the constitutional job they had to do. They respect me, I think, because I'm fair and open. And when we have a disagreement, we don't get on the front page of the paper. We go sit down in an office, we work it out, come out and do what's best for who? You, the citizens of Nueces County. And I think working with Deanna Barrera, who does a great job in running elections, and Kevin Kieschnick, who has the tax assessor collector responsibility, and they
He's got a
work
hard
together.
job. He's got a
We
hard
have
job.
an auditor appointed by district judges, half of which are Democrat, half of which are Republican. Those are the kinds of things that I think I and the majority of our court says this is not a Republican issue or a Democrat issue, Joe. It's a citizens issue for Nueces County. And as long as I can, I'm going to govern that way. And if the people let me continue, which I hope they will, we will govern in that way. Because I look at things, in my opinion, what's best for 340,000 people. Not 5 or 10 or 20, but overall, regardless of party, what is best for the long-term future of this county. And you have to do that. And my relationship with Chewy and my relationships with other senior Democrats, and always had great relationships with Solomon and all the other people when I was coming along. You can't govern without that, Joe. You cannot govern without that. And if you don't build those relationships, and you know as well as I do, you don't do it in 30 days or 30 minutes or 3 years. It takes years to build a relationship of trust, and that's what I try to do.
And some people talked about, in politics, they use everything they can. They say he's getting a little long in the tooth. He has some medical problems. Let's get that up front and be clear about it.
Sure.
How's your health?
Great. And I hope I look like it.
People have told me you lost 10 years somewhere. It's
well,
not Botox, is it?
No, when I finally figured out what I had, and I have some great doctors who specialize in this in Houston, and they've helped guide me along, and I tell you, and I'll tell everybody else, I'm like a publicly traded company. I go to see the doctors in Houston every 3 or 4 months, and they do their thing and can send me home. And I'm blessed because God's blessed me. He's helped me get through this. I have wonderful friends, a wonderful wife of 55 years who was really a great partner in what I do. But more importantly, I'm coming through a period in my life where it was tough for a while. I will tell you, it was tough for a while. I gained 35 pounds. I looked like a puffy taco. A lot of things I couldn't do. But for the last 2 years, my health has been really good. I exercise every day that I can. My speech is fine now. I had problems with that. I'm doing well, and I'm 77 years old, and if God wills, my mother lived to be 100, so I think I got a few years ahead of me.
So you're looking at least 4 more terms.
I'm looking at least 4 more years.
There you go. All right.
But no, my health is good, and if you attended the State of the County, it was pretty energetic, and
yes.
I demonstrated I don't have any problems, and I don't.
Well, and Dave has some footage of that. We'll probably play a little bit of that here with your permission, and of course with the chambers.
Yeah.
But we've got a couple of minutes left. But so it's not easy when you're sitting up there. You don't have the luxury of campaigning.
Yeah.
But you do in your own way after hours and in lunch times and things campaign. What are you hearing out there? The fears, the concerns, the positives and the negatives. What are you hearing out there from our voters?
Well, we've done some polling, as any good, wise politician will do, and I can tell you that in the areas where people know me, my favorable numbers are really good. And I didn't do this, Joe, in 3 months or 3 years. I built a relationship of trust in 8 years as mayor, and people didn't know whether I was a Republican or Democrat when I was mayor, because I didn't deal in that. It's nonpartisan, as you well know. But you build trust, you build relationships, you build integrity, and integrity is doing the right thing for the right reason. But I built that, so when I became county judge, I believe a large number of population of this county say, this guy has a track record of being fair, he has a track record of being colorblind, he has a track record of appointing people. I have been accused of not liking women and not appointing women when we were on the city council. I did some research on that, Joe. We appointed about 1,300 people in the 8 years I was mayor, the council and I did. 52%, excuse me, 52% male, 48% female, almost 50-50. So we've done a good job, and and I'm really looking forward to another 4 years.
Well, and you brought that issue up.
Well, Joe, I think you may know I've been accused by my opponent of not liking women and not being favorable toward women. And of course, that's not true. And one of the things that someone was said about me is that I didn't appoint any women when I was mayor, and the council and I didn't. And I went back and did some research. And we appointed about 1,300 people during the 8 years I was mayor, the council and I did. Remember, you have to have 5 votes to appoint anybody in the
Absolutely.
city, not just one, 5. About 52% of those appointed were male and about 48% were female, almost 50-50. And we were very aware of demographics and being fair with Hispanics and Anglos, but the male-female thing was almost 50-50. So that proves that we are aware of the need to really reach out across all lines.
Well, and people have said that your opponent is probably the most formidable opponent that you've had in years. It is a very strong sort of election year. It's a non-presidential cycle, so I think that from what I've looked at, Republican and the conservatives have a very good shot of gaining some seats. Some people are delighted that you got an opponent on both sides because they say it brings out the vote.
Yeah, well,
now,
if I had my choices, I'd rather not. But let me tell you, I have run 4 races as mayor, and this is my 3rd race as county judge, and I've never been unopposed.
well, and so you've had to fight for every term.
Every term I've gotten, I've had a tough opponent, and Mary Helen is a well-known person in this community, and so I take nothing for granted. I work hard every day, morning, noon, and night. Last night, every night, tonight. So there'll be something going on this weekend. I'll be there, and we're going to have some very aggressive campaigning over the next 46 days, and that's how long it is to the election.
Now, if and when you're elected,
Yep.
God willing, and the voters put you in 4 years again, what is your plan and vision? I know there's 5 people, as you said.
Yeah.
It's not a dictatorship.
Well, in our case, we have to have 3 votes. But yeah,
3 votes.
yeah.
Sure, you got to count at 3 in this region. But what is your vision for the county for the next 4 years?
We have some great challenges. I've already named one: water. We're going to have to work together to solve the regional water needs. We're going to be building a bridge, I hope, to replace the Harbor Bridge, and that's going to take some creative financing on the part of the city and the county and the port and San Patricio County, and that's coming up next year very quickly because there are a lot of things moving quickly on that. But having the political contacts that I have right now, I think is very important to reaching these solutions. Water, the new bridge, windstorm is an issue that's going to live with us forever. Going to the legislature, I've been working the windstorm issue, sometimes successfully, sometimes unsuccessfully, in our state legislature since 1973.
Sounds like Todd Hunter.
It is, and it's
Todd
Hunter.
Todd's really
and
pushing it,
supporting
too.
that. And those are 3 critical areas that not only affect the county but the region. And I think I have a regional responsibility as the largest county and the largest county judge. Another thing that we have to continue to do is work on our workforce. Everybody out there wants a good job. So many of our young people are not succeeding today because of the difficulties they have. So those are 4 critical things. The other is we have to manage our budget, which I do every day. We want to try to keep as debt-free as we can and take care of our employees. But these are things that you do every day. But those other 3 areas are monsters for this region. And I hope people appreciate having a steady hand in the county judge's office who's been there, fought those battles. We must continue to fight for the Army Depot and Naval Air Station. We're not through with that fight. We'll be going back to Washington in the early spring. Those are things that people say, what do you go up there for? Every time you go, you build a relationship, and that's what it's about. So those are key things.
Knocking on a couple of 100,000 doors right now, because I know you don't have the time while you're administering, there at the county, but knocking on and coming into the doors of 200,000 viewers.
Yeah.
Why should they vote for you and not your opponent?
Well, if you look at my signs that are on the side of the road, it said experience counts. And in this job, It's possible to come into this job without any previous experience of running anything. You know, my 8 years as mayor gave me good training on how to be a good public official and run the meetings and understand that. But more importantly, the relationship building that I have done over the last 8 years with all the elected officials in this area, both at the county and the cities, and I get along fine with the cities, and the federal and state. The county judge in every county is the chief elected official for emergency management. I take that responsibility very seriously. Who makes the call on evacuation? The mayor and I do. If a mayor says no, then I trump that. I have been preparing for that all my life. 30 years in the military, 8 years as mayor, 8 years city, 8 years as the county judge. That's a terrific responsibility, and we've worked to improve our emergency management section in 1,000% since I've been county judge. And so those are things that I think you can't just ignore. And I hope people look at this and say, this guy's been there, done that, but he's done a good job. He understands the job, and I certainly do. And I'm prepared to take this thing on for another 4 years.
Well, very well said. If people want a yard sign, or
Yes,
if
sir.
people want to get involved in your campaign, what's the magic number to call?
946-3682.
946-3682. 946-3682. This is Joe Flores signing off for South Texas Crossfire. Gracias a toda mi audiencia y también a dar el apoyo a Loyd Neal, que está corriendo otra vez para juez del condado. And we're happy to have him on. Thanks for coming on, Judge.
Thank you, Joe.
All right, and that's it for now. Thank you all, and God bless.